The dictionary defines management as the process of dealing with or controlling things or people. While the majority of my professional management experience has not been in dealing with or controlling adult people, I believe the definition still applies to my years as a music teacher, as I sought to deal with or control the 150 little people that I was teaching. My management style closely resembled a bureaucratic order, in which I was at the top of the hierarchical structure and all rule breakers were at the bottom. Lack of conformance to the rules was not tolerated, and all students were reminded of the importance of following the rules daily. During my first year in the MBA program, I began to realize that my managerial style might have worked well with children, but was less successful with adults. Not surprisingly, adults do not particularly like rules being enforced upon them, especially by someone who lacks actual hierarchical ranking, as is the case in many team projects. As I've begun to adapt my approach, I have seen more of an adoption of human relations and systems theory and how I manage different teams that I am on or am leading. But is managing the same thing as leading? And if not, what is the difference? When I think about leadership, I think about my dad, one of the most admired men in my life. He had a passion for life and was one of the most optimistic people I've ever met. He set high standards for each of his 8 kids and believed that one of the greatest character qualities a person could have was a strong work ethic. I watched my dad lead our home and his business with integrity, honesty, and perseverance, even when things were hard. I adopted from him a highly directive leadership style, which I believed would allow me to achieve the results I wanted when I wanted them. What I learned, however, is that leadership is more about creating a vision that makes people follow and less about telling people what they need to do to be a good follower. This is, fundamentally, why managing and leading are not the same things. One requires pushing, while the other requires pulling. One leads to motivated followers, while the other leads to obedient workers. But is there more to leadership than just getting your followers to be motivated? How do leaders actually create change? 2 great leaders of change are unknown by mainstream millennial Americans, but their stories depict what transformational leadership fundamentally requires: self-sacrifice. Gladys Aylward was born into a middle-class family in London, but found herself a young woman with a heart for the Chinese people. During her years in China, she put herself in the middle of prison riots to advocate for peace, led over 100 children through the mountains amidst Japanese bombings, and cared for every person that came near her. She never married and died caring for orphans in Taiwan. Jim Elliot was born into a home in Portland, Oregon. After hearing about the Auca people, a group of unreached Ecuadorian people known for violence toward others, Elliot began preparing for his move to Ecuador. Accompanied by his wife, young daughter, and 4 other missionary families, Elliot and the other men began dropping supplies and gifts by plane to the Auca people. One day, the 5 men decided to land the plane and began visiting with men from the Auca village who were pretending to be interested in taking a plane ride. Just minutes later, all 5 men were murdered. Prior to his death, Elliot wrote in his journal, "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep, to gain that which he cannot lose." When I think of what I desire my leading change approach to be, it is these stories of sacrifice that I think about. I can think of no greater form of transformational leadership than being willing to sacrifice your comforts, pleasures, and life for a cause.